The Daikyu is one of two variants of the Japanese asymmetrical Yumi bow. Read as big bow or long bow, the Daikyu is the larger variant of the smaller Hankyu or half bow. And you can thank the wiki for today's intro. Hey guys, hello and welcome back. As always, my name is Leyzar, and today we're going to be diving deeper into this Mastery Rank 10 primary weapon, the Daikyu. As per the usual, I'm going to be having a cheap build, something affordable that anybody can build, but of course we're also going to have the classic endgame setup with a Riven. That being said though, please keep in mind that my builds and guides usually follow a more new player friendly approach, simply because there's a lot of info here and I want anybody watching to understand how the weapon functions and how it should be built. So if you're a veteran of the game and already know most of the stuff, then please have a little patience. And with that out of the way, let's jump into the Daikyu. Let's begin by checking out how the weapon handles without any mods equipped, and this is roughly 15 meters away from the wall. I'm gonna be taking a couple of free shots. You will see that the Daikyu has a very long charge time, only second to the lens. And of course it will fire an arrow since it is a bow. You'll notice that there's very little to no drop off when it comes to the arrow itself. It does have a slight arcing effect, but for the most part you don't really need to aim above enemy's head to get that headshot. Other than that, well, it's a bow, so let's jump into stats to see precisely what we're dealing with. First of all, we're gonna talk about mod capacity, 60 out of 60. And if your Daikyu only has 30 out of 30, then jump into actions and install an Arcane catalyst. The Arcane catalyst can be found from alerts, invasions, or if you're lucky, from the daily sortie. More often than not, I have to pay 20 plat for this one, so bear it in mind. Next, my weapon has been formatted a total of 8 times, but this was done because I'm crazy. For the weapon builds I'm recommending you guys, 3-4 format should do it. By default, the Daikyu does come with one V symbol or Madurai. Accuracy is 16.7. Now this is a bow, it's a standard accuracy for a bow, and as long as you can aim, you're gonna be getting awesome headshots out of this one. Charge rate is 1 second, which is a bit long. Compared to the Dread, for example, is double. Critical chance is decent at 20%, and the multi at 2.0 is quite nice. Magazine of 1, again it's a bow, it's silent, we got a punch through of 3.0 meters, and that is absolutely awesome. Now of course we can further augment that, but for now, the Riven disposition is 4 out of 5. The Daikyu is not a very popular weapon. It is a bit harder to use, and in a game where you have so many assault rifles, machine guns, beam weapons, and so on and so forth, it is understandable why bows are not very popular. Status chance is 50%, and this is the highest stat on the weapon. That is a huge status chance. Next, we're gonna move to the default damage. We got impact, puncture, and slash. The highest amount is puncture. Now, puncture currently in Warframe is one of the better physical types. I'd even argue it's the best because it deals 50% extra damage against heavily armored targets such as Grineer. Impact and slash are a little bit behind at the same 138 value. And take a look at this. Now that is a lot of damage. Just keep in mind that you cannot do a half shot with Daikyu. It has to be fully charged in order for the arrow to get released. Let's start slapping on some mods, and as per usual, we're gonna start off with raw damage, and there's nothing more raw than Serration, 165% extra damage. There's something to be said about heavy caliber, and to be honest, on bows I don't honestly recommend it. It's not that the main arrow gets a horrible accuracy, it's that the multi-shots fly really weird, so I don't recommend heavy caliber, at least not on this type of weapon. Next we're gonna go into multi-shot, the best thing on everything, and split chamber is mandatory. 90% multi-shot basically means that you have a 90% chance per shot to fire one additional arrow. And you can also take into account vigilante armaments with another 60%. If you were to slap both of these on, you would have a guaranteed second arrow per shot and a 50% chance at a third arrow. So multi-shot is a very big deal currently in Warframe. Next we're gonna go into crit chance and crit damage. It's still worth doing that on the Daikyu even though it is a status weapon. As you will see in testing, if the Daikyu crits, then it hurts badly. If it doesn't, well, then not so much. Point strike, 150% critical chance, bumping the crit chance to 50%, and we're gonna go into vital sense as well. A good crit chance is nothing without crit multi, which is bumped up to 4.4 because of vital sense. Next, we really gotta decide what we're gonna do with the weapon, because you do have a couple of build options. You can go for raw power, my usual favorite approach, or you can go for a slasher, bleeds, and all whatnot. But before we get into that, let me introduce a very special mod of the Daikyu. It's called spring-loaded broadhead, and as you can see, only the Daikyu can use it. Increases damage by 40% if the target is over 15 meters away. Very interesting mod, this one. Now keep in mind that this is a multiplicative after effect, so it's not a 40% like you would get from serration, for example. Think of the arrow leaving the bow as a big ball of numbers. All those numbers get multiplied by 40% because of spring-loaded broadhead as long as the target is at least 15 meters away from you. So it's a very powerful mod. The problem I have with spring-loaded broadhead is the condition. 15 meters away, that's not so bad. You're using a sniper bow in essence, so you should be getting that condition fulfilled most of the time. But it has a 15 drain. That is huge. Now I ran the test and I also crunched the numbers just so you guys can get a feel of what this one is worth. Basically, it's another serration for the most part, so keep that one in mind. Spring-loaded broadhead is a solid option for the Daikyu and I do recommend it. Let's try first for a classic approach, for a raw damage approach, and we're gonna be shooting level 120 corrupted heavy gunner. These guys are equipped with ferrite armor, and ferrite armor is weak to corrosive damage. On the Grenier faction you would also find alloy armor, and alloy armor is weak to radiation damage. If you guys want to take the Daikyu against the infested, I wouldn't really recommend it. There's a lot of them and they're pretty weak, so I would recommend AoE weapons heavily modded into heat. Against Corpus faction, well, these guys have big shields, and against shields you can build magnetic damage, but a smarter idea may be to build gas or toxin, which bypasses their shields and deals damage to their health. So let's try it with corrosive. First with raw damage, and we're gonna go with infected clip and stormbringer. Electricity and toxin in combination will make a lot of corrosive. 4,169. That is a huge amount because once again the base damage of the Daikyu is absolutely huge. Now there's one thing I gotta mention. The charge time for the Daikyu is absolutely horrible. There's gotta be at least one fire rate mod on your bow, or perhaps an arcane, or perhaps you can bypass that with a Warframe ability. For now we're gonna go for mods. Let's check out the available options. You got speed trigger. This is a solid choice. 60% fire rate. Definitely recommend speed trigger. My favorite, however, remains vial acceleration. This will give you 90% fire rate at the cost of 15% damage. And I do like the trade-off. Basically, you gotta decide, do you like vial acceleration or do you want speed trigger? There is also another option. If you guys have primed shred, that one will give you 55% fire rate and 2.2 meters worth of punch through. Now the Daikyu does have 3 meters worth of default punch through, so I would recommend vial acceleration. This is the initial build we're gonna be testing, then we're gonna switch it up to something more bleedy, and we're gonna see exactly what kind of results we're gonna be getting. I'm not using the 60-60 mods with the Daikyu because once again it does have a pretty big status chance by itself. I don't really need to go to 100%. This is not a shotgun and that is not required. Now I do have spring-loaded broadhead on the weapon, so I'm gonna have to take at least 15 meters away from the target, and this should do it. Oh, that are some nice numbers. It took, what, 20,000 damage, something like that, and of course the punch through is working its magic. And as you will see, as long as the Daikyu crits, then the Daikyu hurts. If it doesn't crit, proc or not, whatever I proc on the target, then it's not really gonna matter all that much. And that's 6 or 7 arrows in the target's head, and it still didn't die. As you can see, we have a bleed proc on the target, but it's not a crit bleed proc, and it's only gonna do 1,000 something, which to be honest isn't all that much. But once again, this is a bow and it hits pretty hard. We are sacrificing a 1 mod slot. We could go for even more damage, but without some fire rate from a Warframe ability or from whatever else, maybe perhaps even an arcane, then the bow is not very usable. You got that huge 1 second charge time. And let's be honest here, the guy with the Amprax is gonna clear all of your targets by the time you charge your shot. So keep that one in mind. And this is what it can do with corrosive. I'm taking into account punch through and everything. Now definitely that is not bad. For MR10 is not bad. Of course we can do even better than that. I modded the weapon for corrosive not because of the status proc, because yes, I do have a high status chance, but then again I'm not really firing that many projectiles at a target. I modded for corrosive because of the 75% extra damage bonus. Now let's try a different approach, shall we? We can make this weapon into a slasher. In order to make the weapon into a slasher, the first thing we will have to do is get that slash value up, and we're gonna do that with Fang Fusillade, 120% extra slash. And let's get rid of the corrosive. Now, since we are making slash, a smart idea would be to build viral damage. This is a bow with a high status chance. We don't fire a lot of projectiles at a target, so we're not gonna get 1,000 status effects. So we need status effects that will guarantee good results. Viral is one such status effect, as it reduces the maximum health of a target by 50% for the duration of the viral effect. So, in order to make viral, we're gonna need two things: cold and toxin. We can't fit spring-loaded broadhead anymore, unfortunately, and we can't really get rid of crit chance crit damage, because once again, if the Daikyu doesn't crit, unfortunately, it does not hurt. So let's go into options. We're gonna use the 60/60 mods this time. This is not for getting multiple viral applications on the target. That is not beneficial, but I do want a high status chance because my slashes come from my status chance. So 60/60 mods for cold is gonna be rhyme rounds. As for toxin, it's malignant force. Both of these mods are not expensive, easy to obtain for the most part. From the trade chat, 10 to 15 plat each. Now I got a true 100% status chance even without the multi-shot. If I was to remove split chamber, there you will see that my status chance does maintain at 100%. So with each and every shot, I'm gonna be proccing at least one status. If I get two arrows on the target, then there is gonna be two statuses. They can be the same status type or they can be different status effects. Now let's bring it back to how IPS works with status effects. Keep in mind that IPS, the default damage or the physical types, have a 4 times greater chance of applying status over elemental types such as viral. So when you're looking at the puncture, look at it times 4, and so for the impact and the slash. So in actuality, the proc order in this case is gonna be slash, puncture, viral, and impact at the same value. So keep that one in mind. Of course, we're gonna be testing the weapon like this. Slash is the highest on the proc order. Unfortunately, viral is 3rd/4th, so there is that to take into account. And I don't need to take 15 meters away from the target anymore because I don't have my spring-loaded broadhead. So let's see what this one can do. There we go, there's a slash proc, and that is a crit slash proc. That is a huge value, 7,083 per tick. With one arrow, I brought the target down to roughly 60% health. But you notice that I didn't get any viral. Let's try it again. There we go, we got viral with puncture this time, but still, no, we need both basically. We need slash and the viral. Now I did get a slash and a viral effect. Unfortunately, the 800 means that it wasn't a crit slash. Let's put a couple of more arrows. This guy said, there we go. A crit slash together with viral, and the target behind the initial target also got destroyed. This time I got a viral, but no slash. There we go, crit slash, absolutely beautiful. Crit slash together with viral. Unfortunately, the viral slips off the target before it has a chance to die. Not that it would. This is a problem with standard, or better said, classic bows building viral and slash at the same time. As you can see, it is not consistent. It is the same reason I hesitated to recommend viral slash for the dread. Sure, if the planets align and everything goes perfectly and you get exactly the status procs you want when you want on the target, it's gonna be bloody glorious. Slash with viral. But as you can see, in practice, that doesn't really happen all that often. Choice is yours, as per the usual. I honestly don't recommend setups that are a little bit too funky, a little bit unreliable like this one. What I want to do is give you guys a build, you take it into a mission, and it will perform just as good as in my test. That is what I am after. There you go, this is an option for a build. You can go for something like this if you so desire. The problem I have with a Daikyu lies in what it is. It's a status bow, a status classic bow. It fires few projectiles, they hit very hard, but it relies on status effects. And the only status effect that is, let's say, really good, or a single or very few procs, is gonna be viral. But once again, I am firing 2 arrows at best. Maybe I can slap on vigilante armaments, and 50% of the time I'm gonna be getting a 3rd arrow. But even so, it is simply unreliable. In any case, let's go back into the Daikyu and see what else we can play with. What we can do is work on the consistency of the viral application. As you saw there, I was getting some slash viral, not that often unfortunately. Now in order for me to get a more consistent viral application on the target, I'm gonna have to raise the value of the viral. And I can do that with 90 mods. So I'm just gonna get rid of rhyme rounds, I'm gonna keep malignant force. Yes, my status chance does go a little bit down, but nothing too worrying. The best solution will be through prime cryo rounds, or if you don't have it, you can go for the normal one as well. But if I use prime cryo rounds, then the proc order will be slash viral puncture impact. Basically, I'm trying to give this build the best chance it has at winning. So we're gonna use prime cryo rounds. If you don't have it, you can go for the normal version. But as you will see, it's still a little bit unreliable. Once again, I'm not using spring-loaded broadhead, so I can shoot them from pretty much wherever I want. Now let's check out those status apps. Impact. Slash with viral. There you go. That is the ideal situation right there. But unfortunately, it's not a crit slash proc on the initial target, so only 800. Slash again. No viral. Still no viral on the target, so as you can see, it's simply not all that reliable. There we go, that was the 5th arrow or something like that. Finally, I managed to get both slash and viral on the target, and that is with prime cryo rounds. Of course, it's not maxed out, but it's still second on the pecking order after slash, which is what you want in a build such as this. There we go, viral app, no slash. Slash and viral on the target, unfortunately, once again, no crit. If you need to shoot a target with a bow this many times for it to die, then you're in a bit of trouble, which is once again the reason why I don't recommend builds like this, not for bows. Other weapons, automatic weapons that can pull a lot of bullets into the target really quickly, then sure, absolutely go for it. But for a bow that fires 2 free arrows at a target, then they really need to hurt in order for you to be effective. So keep that one in mind. And that's pretty much it for the viral and slash builds. Once again, if the planets align, it's gonna be beautiful, but if they don't align, you're gonna be left with egg on your face. So for the standard build I'm recommending to you guys for the Daikyu, simply go for the biggest amount of damage you can. It is a status bow, but that's the problem with it. It is a status bow, and you're gonna have to be a bit lucky in order for it to perform greatly. My opinion is that you should go for a big amount of damage, just build for whatever the target is weak to. In my case it's corrosive, so once again the biggest amount of damage I can get on the target is gonna be with infected clip, Stormbringer, and of course I'm going to be forgetting about viral altogether, and instead of the 60/60 mod, spring loaded broadhead. Now this doesn't have the potential to be as grand as something like a slash build, but this is guaranteed damage on the target, and if your target is weak to radiation, then just simply swap out the infected clip for hellfire, for example, and now you have radiation. You get the general idea. Now let's switch to a Riven setup. I do have a couple of Rivens for this one. I actually tested about 4 Rivens just to see if I can get a worthy and solid slash build out of the Daikyu, but once again it is unreliable. So we're gonna be using this one, Puncture Toxin Multi-Shot with minus zoom. This is actually mine. I bought it for 45 plat. I rolled it. That was the 3rd roll actually. I got lucky this time. I got puncture, which again is great. The highest amount of damage on the Daikyu is puncture, and puncture does deal 50% against heavily armored targets, 50% extra. Multi-shot is always good, and the toxin I will use to make corrosive with Stormbringer, and I'm using Argon Scope for more crit. Once again, as you saw, if the Daikyu crits, then it hurts. If it doesn't, then it won't. And I gotta keep Vile Acceleration, because otherwise I cannot simply use the bow. It is too insufferable. And we're gonna be respawning the exact same targets one more time, just so we can see what kind of results we're going to be getting with this one. Of course, if you get something like Toxin or Cold on your Riven, then you're gonna be able to make Viral as well. As per usual, the choice is yours. But as you can see now, the Daikyu hurts a whole lot more. Those are some impressive damage numbers, and this is what I'm interested in. If I have a weapon that doesn't fire that much, then I want it to hurt when it does. So there's that to take into account. And once again, if it crits, it's glorious. If it doesn't, not as much. Of course, we can further amplify this, and we can get the Daikyu to a 100% crit chance through the use of even more mods, or we can go for what I like to say the optimal approach through Arcanes. And that's what we're going to be doing next, amplifying absolutely everything with Warframe buffs. So we're gonna drop Mag, and we're gonna go for Lady Mirage Prime, my favorite weapon specialist. Now you can use a whole bunch of other frames to test weapons, but I believe Mirage pollutes things the least amount. So we're gonna pick up Mirage, and we're gonna see what kind of buffs she's got. First of all, Rifle Amp will apply to bows, 27% extra damage, stackable, and everybody in your party will be receiving this benefit. Next, let's talk about Arcanes. Arcane Rage is mandatory on headshot, 10% chance for plus 120% damage to rifles for 16 seconds. farmable from the third Eidolon down on Cetus. As for our second Arcane, you do have a couple of options. For example, what you can do is go for Arcane Acceleration. On critical hit, 20% chance for 60% fire rate to rifles for 6 seconds. Now with all the buffs up, you're gonna be having a 107% crit chance if you go for Arcane Avenger. This one is an additive after bonus. So basically what you can do is make a bit of a combination between Avenger and Acceleration. The problem I have with using attack speed or fire rate mods on Arcanes is that they're not entirely reliable. When you start fighting, they're not there, then they're there. It kind of gets a little bit jarring. I recommend a mod on a weapon that requires fire rate. So there's that. We're going to be using Arcane Avenger. With the proc from Argon Scope, we're going to get 27% extra crit chance, and with the proc from Arcane Avenger, our critical chance will be going to 107%. So basically, I have guaranteed crits out of the Daikyu. And of course, we're also going to be activating Mirage's free ability for a massive damage increase, and we're going to go to town. As you saw there, I am using spring-loaded broadhead, and I'm almost getting a one-shot on these guys. Now let's take some range from them, so I'm sure that spring-loaded broadhead will be applying its bonus. There you go. Now that is a huge amount of damage, and this is what I'm after if I'm gonna be using a weapon such as this. If I hit, I want it to hurt. And as you can see, I'm aiming directly at their heads because once again, the drop-off of the Daikyu is basically non-existent, and that is a legitimate one-shot. Take a look at these guys impaled all over the place. But what about Hunter Munitions? Oh my god, high crit chance and no Hunter Fine, let's build Hunter Munitions. And of course, we're gonna need a high crit chance, so Argon Scope, once again, will be needed. Farm it now, guys, while the Acolyte event is still active. Before the Acolytes rolled into town, this was going for 200 plat, so definitely worth the farm, or even buy it now while the price is a little bit lower. Hunter Munitions, yes, 30% chance to apply slash status to an enemy on critical hit, and with Argon Scope up, I'm going to 77%, and I'm gonna build viral. This time, not with the 60-60 mods, this time with the 90 mods. Even gonna go for Prime Cryo rounds. If you don't have it, use the normal version, of course. I don't need the 60-60 mods this time because my slashes will be applied through Hunter Munitions and crits, not through the weapon's innate slash value. We're gonna jump back into Mirage for just a second. Now you can leave things as they are, and with Arcane Avenger up, as stated before, 107% crit chance. But what you can do, since we did drop that fire rate, is go for Arcane Acceleration. Just so you don't say I'm cheating you or anything, we're gonna leave it like this with the maximum amount of damage, but the fire rate is no longer there. Activate Mirage's third ability for that same massive damage increase. Unfortunately, I can already feel the lack of fire rate, but as you can see, one slash on the target from Hunter Munitions, 15,000 plus. Now, if you must have a slash build, then this is the way to go. You get your crit chance to over 100% with the help of Argon Scope, or maybe a Riven, and of course Arcane Avenger. Currently on the trade chat, Arcane Avenger is quite pricey. We're looking at 200 plat, but it's definitely worth it simply because it's an additive after bonus and it enables so many builds. Alternatively, you guys can get into Eidolon hunts. I know it may seem a little bit intimidating, but trust me, it's not really all that hard. And that's pretty much it for the Daikyu review. From my point of view, this is a solid bow. As an alternative, I'm gonna recommend the Dread or the Rakta Cernos. It's not that the Daikyu isn't a good weapon. As you can see, it can cause some real heavy duty damage, but there are other options you should take into account. As always, my name has been Leyzar. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, favorite, share, and subscribe if you enjoy the content. If you have any feedback for me or would like to request a specific weapon review, then by all means, leave it in the comment section down below. I can't realistically promise you that it will be done by next time or even within a week, but I will be reading through each and every comment. Until next time, guys. Bye bye.